Welcome to Strong Inside, Conversations with Two School Psychologists, the podcast where we look beneath behavior to better understand kids, families, learning, and ourselves. Today, we're going to unpack why intelligence and executive functioning are two very different things. We've titled this episode, Why Bright Kids Struggle, because a lot of the times parents have, an idea of their child's intelligence, saying things similar to, they're so smart, they really know the material. When I'm home with them, why is homework such a battle? They're fine. Just watch them play video games or build Legos at home. Yep. And I think what, we want to talk about today is that executive functioning and intelligence aren't really married in a similar way that people might think that they are. And there's actually a lot under the surface of why bright kids, seemingly really smart children, struggle in school. So we're going to have a conversation about all of the multi-facets that come into executive functioning.
Yeah. And I think listening to you, an example, or probably 20 years of examples just flashed through my head of, parents bereft over their child's struggle and coming in together, and one parent believing something is not going well and there's an explanation and that we should get to the bottom of it, maybe evaluate. And then the other thinking that the other parent perhaps is coddling or making excuses because when they're watching at home, they see that that child is the high scorer for whatever that video game is and has a following and can manage websites and their own YouTube channels. Or similarly, kids who can spend hours hyper-focused on the most challenging Lego structures that I could never put together, and that these can hyper-focus, don't need breaks. And so there's always, I think, like a script running in the back of people's heads. I'm not going to make an excuse for my child. They're not, impaired. They're not disabled. This is a won't do, not a can't do. And it can be really confusing for families. And mostly both parents are not, we all have different minds, different brains. Parents are not always on the same page. And that's sort of where, our coaching or our work steps in to try to explain and understand what's going on.
Yeah, and that's so interesting too, because things are so complex, and also every person, I think, has a different perception of, another person, like how their child is doing, right. Which can create a lot of tension in households, which is something hopefully that we can alleviate a little bit when we coach.
Yes, I would say if I were to think on all the families I'm coaching, it creates tension in every household.
It's also very emotional, and we're going to talk about that today too.
Yes. Perfect segue
into our topic about emotion. So, yeah. I mean, also, this might be a good question to start with too, in terms of their perspectives that parents might have. And because, as we said the last time we were talking, like a lot of parents don't really know all of the things that, we get as in our training and in our experience. So what do you feel like you see are some maybe direct misconceptions that parents could have, like when we're talking about, what they see in their child? I feel like you just introed it really well, but maybe that emotional piece too, that they might have misconceptions about.
Well, one, I think the inconsistency we talked about, you can do this and you can't do that. And is that your will, or truly can't you do it? There's a saying for us oldies in the field. I remember hearing it years ago. Once a child with like ADHD or insert executive dysfunction or neurodivergence does well at one thing, it's held against them for the rest of their lives.
That's one that we talked about so much this year. Yeah. Yes, that's really stuck with me.
Yeah. So it's like that achievement is used to compare everything else against, and there's a thought that things are evenly developed, that all of us are evenly developed, so if you can do this, you can do everything else. Okay. So I think also you mentioned intelligence. We measure children standard deviations above average, 120s, who are losing points and almost failing or failing classes because of missing deadlines. And and honestly work with those children. That is not a, I won't do, that's a shame provoking experience.
Yeah.
I have the intellect to do the work, can't turn it in, can't learn from that mistake.
Yes.
Can't find the notes or have the time management to fit that in around my other activities.
Yeah. And kids are so busy. And there's like this cognitive overload that happens where you can't keep it all in your head. And without systems in place, and, those deadlines get missed. And then we run into the problem of problem solving in ways that are not necessarily healthy or beneficial to the family.
Creative problem solving.
Creative problem solving. Yes. And by that, we mean not necessarily being honest with adults. And that can create so much strife and shame in the house. So emotionally tied.
Yeah.
And then it's a cycle. It keeps repeating.
Absolutely. And not just in the house, in school. I mean, think about teachers also. I've worked with some of the most gifted, brilliant teachers, therapists, evaluators who have drawn conclusions about students based on maybe a measure they tested or their student skills. And what we know is that executive functioning and intellect are different sets of skills.
Mm-hmm.
You can also have brilliant executive function and have lower cognitive aptitude. It can go both ways, and the mismatch of the two is misleading. So I've had teachers make recommendations or off the record suggest a trajectory for the child that I absolutely don't agree with. Like, this child should be on this path. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. They have executive dysfunction. They need, I always joke, you're going to be fine until you have a secretary you're going to have a secretary, in the future. Let's just help you now. But when there's a will, there's a way. But I'm going to say it, the lying creates huge problems. And it's not just children who lie to cover that, adults lie to cover it too.
Definitely. Because once those habits are set, like if those aren't corrected, then they absolutely carry into adulthood. Yeah.
Brilliant point, right?
Yeah.
We have a chance when they're younger to replace or instill a new set of coping and recovering after after the shame sets in.
And that's a good thing for parents to learn too, I think. Like, recovering with your child, like, in a sense, forgiving, that dishonesty, and approaching it with understanding and curiosity about maybe why they weren't being honest.
Exactly right. And just knowing that if it happened once, it's going to happen again. That's their default.
Yeah.
Let's not get so crazy about it. None of us wants our child to lie to us. But if we're curious about the behavior, if we look underneath, we actually might make a difference.
Yeah.
A long lasting difference. So we're not talking about one of those adults that learn that as a coping.
Yeah. Exactly.
We've all run into that.
Absolutely.
Where did this start? Around 9 or 10 years old, maybe. Probably.
Yeah. And then their 50s. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's also a lesson for teachers too, because I think that happens. It's really common in the classroom also, that teachers maybe assume negative intentions, malintent because of their frustration. I feel like we as school psychs run into that a lot, where teachers come to us frustrated and emotional, in a similar way maybe that parents are.
Yes. And I think adults feel disrespected and intentionally disrespected versus someone who just happened to be there, was supposed to be the receiver of the information, and now my coping has to be to lie to you because I don't have another one. And I've learned it works. My brain goes so fast. I have a pathway for it. I tell the story. I've seen the most creative lying, and turnitin.com was a big deal for a while. Kids were turning in nothing, and I don't know what happened. And it's like, as the technology increases, the lying and the problem solving around not doing things has gotten pretty extraordinary.
Yeah. The technology is helpful, but also so harmful for kids with this profile, with executive dysfunction. And it's funny too, like that hyper focus you were talking about. I've worked with kids that will put so much energy into like the workarounds. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I wish that you just would focus it,
Yeah.
but it's their problem solving.
But if we, and so here's like, I think a teachable moment for parents and teachers. If we pair, I think we talked about this in our first episode. I've been talking about this quite a bit lately, but if we pair well, like as a coach, as a therapist, as a parent, as a teacher, it is more likely that we can get in there next to that child and say, wow, look at this pattern of creativity and intelligence you've used. And it's actually not accepted. It's not accepted. So we're going to help you parlay this into strategies to support your, time management, your task list, your this, your that, but to talk about in the least judgmental way possible. And that can happen when you've paired properly.
Yeah.
I think we can have those conversations with students that probably trigger that emotional turmoil in the house, right? It's very hard to get your whole house on page, an older brother, mom, dad, about the script at which you go into this very fragile business of acknowledging you've been lying for a while now. But look, hey, let's do a strengths assessment of how well you lied and what we can use. And I do think that's easier for a therapist, a coach, a singular person to get in there.
Yes, because we come in,
vulnerable.
we're from this like outside perspective, I think, and we can make inroads because we don't have the judgment of being, mom or dad. We're not with them,
right,
like in that similar way, and there's not the emotional attachment. Like, and also
right.
then you're so right. If they figure out that we're here to help them and that we're somebody that's in their corner, and they feel that, all of the doors start to open.
Yes. It's just getting the whole rest of that team. So you think of coaching as coaching a person. I've heard people ask me like, what is it? What is it? And how is it different than, well, you're coaching the identified student. You're really coaching the entire family with the pearls of wisdom that are coming out that can help the family if everyone's on page.
Yeah, that's so true. And I find too that I see improvements in my students when I'm having lengthy conversations with parents.
Yes.
Like I will usually stay a little bit after a session with the student to discuss with the parent, debrief, and then it leads into, all these other things that might not have come up with the student. And then I can make inroads with a parent as well. It's awesome.
Yeah. And I, in person, and sometimes I do it with an email. Like these are the highlights of what were discussed. And I'm not asking you to get involved. Please don't. It's still fragile. It's still new, or it's still something that is just for your child and myself. But you having the knowledge, you can prompt in different ways at home.
Yeah, definitely.
And not directly to the things that we are working on, please, because we want no shame connected as we're developing these new strategies and skills.
Yeah. How would you go about, because I feel like that is such an important point and sometimes can be hard to say to a parent, like, what you do sometimes brings your child shame, not in any fault of the parent, but it can be hard to bring that up. Like, how do you approach that with parents?
That's a really excellent question, Marie. Wow. I think sometimes, or maybe most times, I am going in to validate the parent for their experience before approaching any of that. Because as a parent of grown kids who at times problem solve creatively about assignments or things they shared with me, and gosh, were those times difficult? Yes. And not everyone in my house was on the same page. So if someone just came to me to tell me about my child's plight, I just don't know that I could have just heard it and gone from there.
Right.
But if someone could truly validate, if someone was really listening and following what was happening and what I had tried to do that wasn't successful,
right,
and I felt heard or seen or acknowledged, then I could listen to I remember one time I said to the school psychologist years ago about one of my children who was really struggling in school. He's learning disabled, like super bright, learning disabled, executive dysfunction. He said every day he comes home and I get a litany of what went wrong at school.
Yeah.
My nervous system was, because I would leave what I was doing and then I would brace myself,
Right.
hear what my baby had to say was happening at lunch in the classroom. And I remember she looked at me and said something so simple that I would have said a million times over, but never thought of it because I
Mhm.
was the one in the line of fire. She said, make sure you start the conversation with, tell me something that made you so happy at school today, or
Mhm.
something like that. And
Yeah.
I thought, oh my God, yes, you're right. So simple.
Yeah.
I couldn't access my executive functioning. I wasn't learning from my mistakes. I wasn't knowing how to initiate the right things. My nervous system took over.
Yeah.
I was waiting every day, probably even feeding him some of the negativity
Right.
as he was coming in the door
Yeah.
and just setting the stage for the rest of the night. So I think of those things when I talk to parents. I acknowledge everything they've done. And usually by then I have examples of, look, you've hired me.
Mhm.
You've hired me. This is your priority.
Right.
We can't minimize the shame. If you were to fail at your job, if I were to fail with working with your child, the shame would overwhelm me. Failing school brings the same shame for your child. They don't have the language to tell you. They don't have
Right.
the life experience to tell you yet
Yeah.
how heavy that shame is and what that shame causes in terms of emotional dysregulation.
Yeah. I think that's a perfect segue too. When you said nervous system and you regulating, I feel like as adults, regulation is important, and for the kids and for just people in general, like you can access that the top part of your brain, that knowledge piece and thinking and planning and organizing when you are dysregulated. We should
Yeah.
definitely speak a lot on that
Well,
because
you brought up a lot, really defining executive functioning there,
yeah,
like finishing what we started, right? I mean,
yeah,
I have loved ones that are like, I'm great at the first 90%.
yeah,
And then
right,
there's like that little bit that's not done. And sometimes I'm like, that's amazing. I'll take 90%. And then sometimes I look around, I'm like, all those 10% all around this house,
yep,
that's a
yep,
year's worth of work. So yeah,
right,
we all have different levels of it.
yeah,
But I think people have always talked about it. EF is only living like in that cognitive portion of your brain, and you've just highlighted it's much more than that.
mhm,
And you can't really access it until you're emotionally regulated,
yeah,
right? Until you have you're acknowledging, like, try to get a kid who's frustrated and having a breakdown to sit down and do homework.
yeah. There's no
Or
way,
how about when you put out the homework and say, just get it done, and
right,
then the breakdown happens. If I had truly $1 for every call I've gotten about that, it's real. So I would be a millionaire for sure. And that can't just be like in Westchester in Connecticut.
right,
And actually that was in Arizona too.
yeah,
So I'm thinking we can cover most of America, perhaps the world, with when it all gets laid out in front of you, it can really be dysregulating.
yeah. I mean, even like tests, you get a stack of pages. Like I've heard, my mom say before, it's so funny, but she's got some executive dysfunction too, which she's very open about sharing. And one of the things that always makes us laugh is if she, gets like a book or paperwork or something, she'll be like, there's too many words on this page. And I think it just speaks to like you don't see like and people that you don't see like line by line naturally. You just see a big block of text and you can't unsee it in that way. It's got too many
And
words.
perhaps it's like on a thick packet. So
Yeah,
it's just, yeah.
you know that there's more of those pages. Yes, and it's
Yeah.
all you see, and you actually can't like she can't start at the top without support sometimes,
Yeah. So I
especially
think,
if it's
oh,
something.
sorry.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, especially if it's something tied to her emotions, like if it's,
Yeah.
tax or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Then that's a double whammy, right?
Yeah.
Like my taxes, wow, I do songs and dance around that. I start prepping probably around January, like
Yeah.
to cope with, like, bind my own anxiety and
Right.
but I'm gonna need to get it done. But I think that's why, our coaching, and I always joke about I like to do executive functioning 2.0. I think I made a post on my social media, like, it is 2.0 because I do think that you have to teach a person to learn to scale their own emotional regulation, right? Their own emotions, and then to make a choice to bring yourself down into a comfortable place so that you can do those things.
Yeah.
And that's when people don't acknowledge how strongly emotional regulation is tied to executive functioning.
Yeah. I mean,
And then
I
you walk away from the child, and then the family says, why would I need another executive functioning coach? I don't need
right.
lists. Like I've said that to you when people say to me, wait, what are you going to do differently? We don't need another list. No, I agree with you. You don't need another list.
Nope.
The list can come after you have found some kind of peace inside of you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I just think when we're talking about this, a student that I worked with this year in school, he was so bright. Like things were coming so natural to him. I was in love with the student, like so smart and witty and funny. But when he was anxious or stressed, it was like he didn't, everything that he knew about math or whatever just went out the window.
And then the panic,
right? Yes.
So
and the shame and
the
and
task
him
stressed
saying,
me, my IQ drops into my shoes.
Yeah.
And now I'm truly panicked.
Yes. And then, the disappointment and frustration that came with that also, like him saying like, why is my brain like this? I hate that my brain is like this. Like that really, those negative feelings come so fast and big.
So Marie, think for a minute about the kids who have the filter and won't say those things out loud.
Yes.
And the adults.
Yes.
That have the filter, they don't want to be judged. They've learned that the world is, real and not, us kind sitting around you, like the real world. We just pack that all down.
Yeah. Yeah, because I should mention too, the student had autism. So the filter wasn't in the same way that, neurotypically developing people would have.
Right.
But yeah, if all of that was coming out of him, at sixth grade, like I can't imagine people, adults who have had this for life don't feel, I mean, how could you even vocalize it, in that way? It's all just packed down. But once he was calm and in a safe, secure environment where he felt comfortable, I was so impressed. I mean, the way that he preferred was if I sat next to him, occasionally read questions out loud to get through, and we presented only a couple problems at a time. I was so impressed with how much math he knew. I just was like,
and I had knowledge of that scenario that you're talking about. So I can say that what a beautiful example for you to see firsthand.
Yeah.
That was a year-long cumulative test, and the child's made an A on it.
Yeah.
So he certainly would have had an F.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And even if someone tried to do a little piece with him, maybe he would have gotten a C.
Right.
And everyone would have believed, at least he learned some of the material.
Yes.
But we knew he had mastery because we knew how capable.
Yep.
Amazing.
It really was. I really honestly didn't know that he knew as much as he did before starting those tests. Like I knew that he was bright, but I probably also would have said, yeah, like a B, and he just went through it like he had known it for years. And I was just so impressed the entire time. It was amazing.
So I think if I'm listening to this, if I'm an adult, a parent listening to this thinking, well, what are you going to do that for the rest of my child's life? You're going to sit so every moment matters, every year matters. The goal is never to keep a child in a space where they're dependent on another person. They might be just dependent on an external, right? Something to aid the frontal lobe, right? We know that our cup fills, all of us, our cup fills.
Mm-hmm.
But we also know that the frontal lobe is developing. We know that boys, in this case, we're talking about a boy, that will continue to develop into college years.
Yes.
Girls straight through high school.
Mm-hmm.
So when we're talking about middle school students, even high school students, there's still growth. And then there's the strategies learned. And as maturity kicks in, there's the value of the strategies that prevent shame. They're very valuable and very motivating, and we start to internalize them. And you actually, I think you had a couple of clients, private clients outside of school this year that came up with, like, took my old school ideas that have been working for and still work. I'm not saying that they don't work, but had some really modern sort of takes on them.
Yes.
Share some of that. So this would be in the category of external aids that support underdeveloped executive functions.
Yeah, I think in my coaching, a lot of what I have seen to be the most effective, like you were saying, is that almost it can be old school, and also I'll talk about the ways that it's been modernized, but keeping cues and information externalized in your environment is something that I've learned is very, very effective. Because so for people, that maybe are more typically developing in their executive function, they can kind of keep that internal monologue going, and it's more one track. But for people with executive dysfunction, deadlines, things like family events, the calendar there's no visual happening inside, so it has to happen in the environment. So a wall calendar, having all of the dates written out, you pick a day of the week to go with your family and write everything out. One client used this, and I think it's fine if I say the brand. It's a digital calendar. I think it's called Skylight, and it's cool. It's kind of like a giant monitor iPad that you can hang on the wall, and it connects to an app on your phone that you can write down your, whatever event it is, or even to-do lists. Actually, it's really expansive. So it's the calendar, and then it's also lists. There's also, this sounds like a promo, but it's just like a really cool like thing. There's recipes, that you can write and store. Yeah, it's like a whole system. And I think it's supposed to be used as this ecosystem with multiple contact points, so that wherever you are, you get an invite from a friend for next Tuesday, you can just take out your phone, write it down, and then it will be connected to the big monitor wherever you put it in your home. So when they purchased it, I said, put it somewhere where you're going to walk by it, pretty much wherever you are in the house. Don't put it in the corner where you'll never look at it, because that's important too.
Most of our clients and most people that I as I'm walking through life, not judging, but taking in information. Oftentimes people with ADHD and or the larger umbrella of executive dysfunction, their organization system is piles.
Yeah. Right.
Or bags.
Yeah.
Like those reusable grocery store bags.
Yeah, that's so true.
Almost themed bags.
Yeah.
Like this was in my car this week, but in there could be information due, mail that maybe they got on the way in.
Yeah.
Could be the thing they have to do to help someone. Could be any number of things all together in there, including a recipe or an invite that came in the mail or a bill due. Out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
Stacks, bags, nothing.
The second that it's not, that you don't have a cue for it, it's gone. Yeah, totally.
We should all have at our door before we leave, what did I forget? We should just have the question.
Yes.
What did I forget today?
I haven't put into practice yet, but I did make, a little sheet for one of my clients, and she said that it might be helpful to have a checklist on the front door: keys, wallet, medication.
People do that.
Yep.
All the time.
The external. Also having things in the environment. So my other client, her medications have a home on the counter. She has to look at them as she's getting her breakfast ready. And that is her cue to take them every day. So anchors, having visual anchors.
And many people have learned, whether they understand the science of it and what it means for our brain, but we've learned that routines help us, right? So the science is it takes less space, less cognitive energy if you've internalized a routine.
Right.
So the learning of it takes cognitive energy, right? So how, we all have different learning rates, but We could probably quote like how many times you have to do something for it to become an internalized routine and how regularly you have to do it. I mean, here's a silly example of muscle memory. You get in the car, you put on your seatbelt and but like there are people who know when they come in, they put their car keys in the same spot every day.
Yeah.
That's so I don't lose it. So that little nugget of wisdom that's widely held in most households, when we take that, why that works, and we bring it out to the unique things that are a challenge for each client, we have success.
Yeah.
And then hopefully they've internalized it before they go on a vacation and then they're totally thrown. But the truth is, going on vacation, I get thrown.
Oh, yeah.
It's fun. Hopefully it's relaxing, but I do have routines that absolutely work for me that I don't have to think about. And then something will happen that will throw me, like using someone else's car.
Yeah.
Right? Like if something happened with your car and it's like, wait, I didn't even realize how many cues I have in my car when I get out, what I take, get my briefcase from the back, just switching a car, like the cues aren't there. This is all uncharted territory. So it's a building internalized cues is a huge thing, a huge way that we support families so that you're not always sitting next to your child to do something in the future, but you may have to co-regulate.
Yep.
For quite some time.
Yeah. And I think when, you start the coaching earlier, that's, I think when you have a greater chance of, by the time that they're in high school, they can do it on their own. They're able to, or with less support.
And the families who, it's a non-negotiable, it's so clear.
Yeah.
Right? It's so clear. It's a battle every night. And so it's worth, okay, you're going to have to put this time in now. And because even if someone isn't college bound, if they want to go into the real work world, you can't avoid it. You can't escape needing to have a routine and be responsible for your daily living skills.
Yes.
Well, I know like for an adult to connect to this in a concrete way. I remember this happening long ago. My kids were young. I was driving locally somewhere, got pulled over by the police, and thought maybe I was speeding, but wasn't sure, and certainly had never been pulled over before. Forget, with my kids in the car, and I'm pretty confident person. Anxiety hit me like out of nowhere.
It's so scary. Especially with your kids in the back. Oh my gosh.
I felt I'm laughing mostly because of like how uncool I was, like totally not my cool, calm, collected. Like I could sit across from anyone and argue any point. Right. And I look up at this big police officer who said license and registration. And I was fumbling in my purse trying to find it. And then I was like, registration. And he's like, that will be in your glove box, ma'am. And I was like, oh gosh, thank you so much. And then there was a whole bunch of stuff that didn't belong in my glove box in there.
Always.
My hands are now shaking, not like overtly, but like, and I'm like, wow, you're really nervous.
Yeah.
But if you ask me right now, I could tell you exactly where my registration is and which little thing it's held in and what's in my glove box. And, but it helped me to connect with, this is going back 20 years at least, because my kids are grown, but it helped me connect with kids and clients way back then. I said, okay, wow.
Yeah.
My ability to navigate that situation dropped into my shoes.
I think actually, as you were saying that, another example, and me recently, I've had to do interviews.
Yeah.
When you're on an interview panel and, 5 people are staring at you and asking you things, I felt like, everything that I had learned, I kept it mostly under control, but definitely at the beginning it was slipping away, and I had to really like ground myself before I could answer, because you feel it, you feel the thinking sometimes turn off completely. And it's like you're fighting through this cloud of anxiety.
Yeah. That is a beautiful image.
Yeah.
To like sort of concretize.
Yeah. That's what it feels like for these kids.
Fighting through a cloud of anxiety is exactly right.
Yeah.
And it could, and so we're talking a lot about how emotional regulation impacts executive functioning, but this is analogy that I've heard many people use now, but I remember having this epiphany probably 20 years ago also, keep on joking about myself and my age, but I remember smartphones as they were like developing in their capacity.
Yep.
And then learning that I was burning out the battery on my phone because I had too many apps open and I didn't know that they were open, that I hadn't intentionally closed those apps. And realizing that was the best analogy for the children I was working with.
Yeah.
Because when they came in upset about what was going on at home, or who didn't pick them for PE, and the way that kids know how to give digs to each other in a way that adults don't see, and how it continues on social media when kids leave school.
Yep.
But those are all apps eating up your cognitive energy and taking away from what you're supposed to do.
Right.
That just adds to the shame cycle, right?
Yes.
You knew that last night. She knew it when she left our house. She got in and she took the test and it all went out the window.
Yep. Yeah. So it's really upsetting, I think, for so many people.
So sometimes we're just teaching test taking strategies, and that begins with emotional regulation also. That's executive functioning that begins with emotional regulation.
Yeah. Learning how to regulate is a skill. And, that's what we're teaching.
Yeah.
How to do it, in the moment and to develop that rather than a person sitting with you and doing it with you.
And one of the sessions that we're going to do hopefully soon is, what is emotional regulation and what is the brain body connection? Because you need that before you actually we could talk about strategies to regulate yourself, but you do have to understand a little bit first what's going on.
Yeah. So
that you can truly understand that there's no way getting around it.
Right.
It's a black and white situation.
Yeah. We can't fight our bodies.
No.
It's happening.
Yeah.
And it's good. And I think that to dive into the science would be interesting too, on like the nervous system and how to regulate and why,
So we have actually a parent workshop through Strong Inside just about emotional regulation, but I definitely think we could do a bite size that people would learn here on the podcast.
Yeah.
For free.
And then if they want more in depth, the one-to-one and the workshop.
Exactly.
It's great.
Exactly.
Okay. Next week, we invite listeners, we'll be posting, on across platforms, YouTube, Facebook. If anyone has questions, they are welcome. We will, make sure to hit those at the, some point in the next session. Mainly, if people have questions, we're hoping to focus next time on diagnosis. So your child is diagnosed, now what? How to share with families, how to share with siblings, how to explain to the child themselves about diagnosis. We're going to call that the stories that we tell, because really those stories are the most important and can be potentially life-changing for that child and the families.
Yeah.
So if you have any questions about that, hoping to cover, everything that includes into that really big and possibly heavy topic. So it would be good to hear from people.
Yeah. And you're giving me another idea. Many, if not most of the calls I get, right now I have several cases going on of families that don't know how to navigate the school system.
Yeah.
So I have, whether it's a diagnosis, or I have an evaluation, or I have a concern. What do I do now?
Yep.
The school's telling me, they're fine, just wait. Or they don't qualify, or whatever it is, you name it. We've heard it. So a whole nother episode on like, so one would be navigating your family and your life and your community. And then another would be the school system.
Yeah. And hopefully we can get some support staff on too.
Absolutely.
To come and visit. That's really exciting.
Yeah.
You could hear from, your behavior analyst, your SLP, your OT. Yeah. We've got lots of friends in that area. So.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, as we leave, just in closing, remember that every behavior has a story. Understanding comes first, skills come second, and shame never helps. Thank you so much for spending time with us today. Until next time, stay strong
Stay
inside.
strong inside.